Listen, the only reason I'm going out of my way to tell any of you this is because the story Jane the Killer is starting to piss me off. My real name is Jane Arkansas, aka Jane the Killer. And this is how I met Jeff, the reason I look the way I do, and why I want to kill him. When I heard that a new family had moved in across the street, I wasn't that surprised. It was a nice neighborhood, and the house was relatively cheap considering where it was. I guess I was about 13, 14 when everything went to hell. I never really talked to Jeff when he moved in. To be frank, I never talked to him until that night. But it's too soon to talk about that now. My first impression of Jeff was that he was a good kid, probably got nice grades, rarely got into fights, maybe even a cool guy if he opened up to someone. His brother Lou seemed like he put family first, by the way. He sat with his brother on the sidewalk. Of course, I was just guessing at the time and really didn't want put much thought into my analysis because I was getting ready for school when I looked out of the window, and I was running late, which was usual for me at that time in my life because I was hardly ever late for anything, especially school. I was surprised when I saw Randy and his stooges go up to Jeff and Lou on that stupid skateboard of his. Randy was nothing but a bully. He always picked on everyone who was smaller than him. He was even the reason why my parents drove me to school instead of letting me take the bus like everyone else. Like, everyone had their lunch money or some kind of cash given to Randy and his goons because of some toll that he demanded from everyone. We all knew Randy's group had knives and threatened to use them on us. We ever told anyone about the money they took from the other kids on the block. Everyone except the new kids they were trying to intimidate like the rest of us. When I saw Randy talking to them through the window, I just looked away. It was Wuzzy thing to do. I had better things to do than watch another kid hand over his money to Randy. But curiosity got the better of me, and I looked up for a few seconds later. What I saw left me speechless. Jeff was standing now, and it looked like Randy already had what he wanted. Just sit down, I thought. Don't be stupid. Then I saw Jeff punch Randy in the face and break his wrist. Oh my God, I whispered. Then I yelled, "You idiot!" My parents ran down the stairs and asked what happened. Then they looked outside and saw what was going on. Jeff had already cut the skinny guy, and I think his name was Keith, and he went down screaming. Troy only went down with a single punch, since my house was across the street from where Jeff and his brother were sitting. With the front of the house having big windows, we saw the whole thing. Or at least I did. My parents came in after the part where Randy stole their wallet, so they didn't know the whole truth. It was disturbing watching Jeff fight. He was enjoying himself too much. I felt a knot in my stomach, like something was happening that shouldn't be. And from the look on Lou's face, Jeff didn't do this kind of thing often. Next thing I know, I heard sirens and the new kids bolted out of there. The cops came around with the bus driver to check on the victims. It seemed they were going to be alright, considering the amount of crap kicked out of them. Since my parents' policy was no cops, ever since my dad got framed by a narc cop when he wanted to draw attention off of himself when police were investigating the case of the missing Coke, it ended with my dad quitting the force. So when we heard sirens, we went into the backyard, got into the car, and left. When my parents drove me to school, they told me very clearly that they didn't want me talking to Jeff ever. I did not disagree with them. I had art first period, so I didn't see Jeff until close to the end of school. I can see the colors in my artwork if I think hard enough, but when I try to look at anything now, it seems gray. I guess that's the price someone pays for losing their innocence. I didn't see Jeff until the final period of the day. When I did, he seemed off. At first, I thought he was just faking the joy so people wouldn't suspect him for the crime that he did, but he was really enjoying himself. It wasn't because he was excited to be at school. I could tell that much from him. The smile he wore looked sadistic to me. It was the smile of a madman. The second that bell rang, I bolted out those doors as fast as I could. Nobody but me knew what Jeff really was. A freak. The next day seemed to be passing without an incident at first. Then I saw the police car in front of Jeff's house. Looks like they got you, I thought. Nobody could gotten away with something like that, with the neighborhood watching everything. But I was wrong with who they arrested. Instead of coming out with Jeff, like I expected they would, the police came out with Lou, his brother. I was barely forming the thought of Jeff framing his brother for the assault when he came out of the house yelling at Lou. "Lou, tell them I did it." I was able to hear him this time because the front door was open to my house. I couldn't hear what Lou said in reply to Jeff's outburst, but it was definitely not what Jeff wanted to hear. A few seconds later, the police drove off with Lou, and Jeff was outside with his mother. A few minutes later, she went inside the house and left Jeff outside. Although I couldn't hear him from across the street, I could tell that he was crying. But who wouldn't be in that situation?